Hello and welcome. Today, we're diving into something called the Universal Blueprint. It's this fundamental pattern that, believe it or not, organizes everything from huge societies to incredibly complex software. It's a design that connects worlds you'd probably never think to put in the same sentence. So, let me ask you this. It kind of sounds like a riddle, right? What connects a nation's laws, an AI's mind, and a simple line of code? On the surface, these three things couldn't be more different. One is ancient and philosophical, another is totally cutting edge and abstract, and the last one is super granular and technical. But I promise, stick with me. And by the end of this, you'll see the single, powerful idea that links them all. All right, let's start with our first piece of the puzzle. This is a single line from the Constitution of India. It's a formal, foundational rule. It's a statement of identity, really. The primary instruction in a document that governs over 1 billion people. It just says, hey, this is what we're called. Now, let's jump to a rule from a completely different world, artificial intelligence. This instruction, it's describing how an AI sees. The encoder is kind of like an eye. It takes in a ton of visual data, that's the input tensor, and it simplifies it, or downsamples it, to pull out the most important features. Just like the Constitution, it's a foundational rule, but this one's for building an artificial mind. And our last piece is the most specific one yet. This is a command in the Python programming language. It defines a very, very specific process. It's a blueprint for an action. So when a program gets a question, this rule tells it exactly how it has to go find the right information. It's an absolute, non-negotiable instruction.
So what's the answer to our riddle? They are all blueprints. The Constitution, the AI architecture, the line of code, every single one is a set of instructions for building something complex. They're basically the source code for our world, whether that world is a nation, an intelligence, or just a single, simple interaction.
Let's dig into that first blueprint a little deeper. A constitution isn't just some dry legal document. You can think of it as a nation's operating system. It defines the core architecture for how an entire society functions. Thinking of a constitution as an OS reveals this really fascinating parallel to software. The preamble, that's the mission statement. The articles are the core functions that define what the system can and can't do. The schedules are basically just data tables. And what's really cool, the amendments, those are the patches. The regular updates that show this blueprint is a living document designed to be improved over time. A good blueprint doesn't just say what you can do, it's also about what you can't. These articles from the Indian Constitution set up fundamental protections. They're like firewalls, They set hard limits on what's allowed within the system, all to protect the people using it. And this is brilliant. It shows how these blueprints can be self-referential. The system's own rules define who gets the power to change those rules. Article 368 gives Parliament the authority to issue those patches we just talked about, to actually amend the operating system itself. It's a feature, not a bug. Okay, so now let's take this blueprint idea and apply it to something totally different, creating an artificial intelligence. If a constitution is the OS for a nation, well, then an agent architecture is the blueprint for an artificial mind. So this is the blueprint for how an AI thinks. And it kind of mirrors our own minds, doesn't it? It starts with perception, to take in the world. It pulls from knowledge and memory, and it uses learning to adapt. All of this feeds into a central reasoning engine that makes a decision, which then leads to an action. This isn't just some simple flowchart. It's a blueprint for autonomous behavior. Let's break those blocks down a bit. Memory is absolutely crucial. Like Microsoft CTO says, without it, an AI has no context, no continuity. It's just a bunch of disconnected actions. Then there's learning, the ability to get better. IBM points out how feedback, whether it's from humans or even other AIs, helps the agent improve. And all of this serves reasoning and action, the ability to think and then to do something to reach a goal. That is the blueprint for autonomy right there. And these blueprints, they're having a massive impact in the real world. We are seeing them pop up everywhere, from healthcare, where they're helping with clinical decisions, to software development, where they're debugging code. This isn't just some abstract theory. It's a powerful framework that people are actively building on right now. But what's the real measure of a successful blueprint? Results, right? Well, when these AI agent designs get put into practice, the impact is enormous. Across different apps, we're seeing a massive 45 to 80% jump in user satisfaction. This isn't just a small tweak. It's proof that a well-designed blueprint can fundamentally change how we interact with technology for the better. So now we get to the most fundamental blueprint of all, the language of code and APIs. APIs, that's application programming interfaces, they are the bedrock. They are the absolute non-negotiable rules that let different software systems talk to each other perfectly. Just look at these two examples. On the left, you've got a self-contained Python function. It's a personal set of rules. On the right, you have an API endpoint, a public set of rules for how different programs can talk to each other. One's internal, the other's external. But they're both incredibly rigid blueprints that define a precise interaction. Let's make this really tangible. This is the blueprint for telling a physical object what to do. Programming a little microcontroller like an Arduino follows this strict, repeatable process. You connect the hardware, you pick your target, you write your rules into what they call a sketch, which is just a program, and you upload it. You are literally giving the physical world a blueprint for its behavior. I really love this quote from the Arduino guide because it just captures the essence of what all these blueprints are for. The rules, the code, the constitution, the architecture, they provide the structure. They make things work. But it's human creativity. It's our intent that uses that structure to build something meaningful or useful or even beautiful. So we've seen how these blueprints work at the scale of a nation, at the scale of a mind, and at the scale of a single interaction. They are the fundamental grammars that we use to build our world, both the physical one and the digital one. And that really brings us to the final and maybe the most important point. These frameworks aren't just for governments or giant tech companies. They're tools, they're patterns. So the real question is, now that you know these universal blueprints exist, what kind of system, what kind of solution, what kind of world will you choose to build? Thanks for joining me on this explainer. Think about the blueprints that are all around you. And until next time, keep exploring.